All right, Papa, we're on to you. Okay?
Bless! Bless! Bless!
Licorice lover.
You don't have a too
Bless.
Patriarch.
Loving.
Wisdom.
Patriarch.
Licorice.
Okay, I can't spell, so just forget that part, okay?
Yeah.
Positive.
Positive.
Yes.
Toast isn't burnt, it's just dark brown. Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Faithful.
Encourager.
Loyal.
Faithful. Loyal.
Right at the bottom, Karen.
Loving kindness.
Karen,
Loving kindness.
right at the bottom, you put like a rock.
Like a rock.
He is solid.
Did you hear all that, Papa? Let me read it for you. Listen. You two are like the worst. Everybody else is like, woo! Blessed, loving, patriarch. Positive, wisdom. Encourager. Faithful, loyal, like a rock. Okay? That's the things we think of you, Papa. Strong-willed.
That's right, Papa. That's you.
All right.
That's you.
To me, that's a great thing that we don't often do with each other, is we don't often take the time to share the things that we appreciate or love about each other. And all of those things are things that you can go up later and reread just to remind yourself of what people see from the outside of what they see of who you are. These things all just represent just quick things that represent you. So I want you to turn to Psalm 119 with me. And this is the biggest psalm in the Bible, but don't worry because we're not reading it all. And the cool thing about, well, this cool and bad. The cool thing about Psalm 119 is that it's the biggest psalm because it's actually an acrostic poem written in the Hebrew language. And what that means is it's every letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Each stanza, each section of Psalm 119 takes the letter of the Hebrew alphabet, like in our A, and then that every letter in Hebrew, the sentence after that, it's 8 stanzas per section, all begin with that letter. So it was designed as this neat poem, but unfortunately, when you translate something so we can read it in English, you lose the beauty of that, because now it no longer flows like that. The content of it remains the same. It's just you don't get that layer of beauty that comes with the presentation. So keep in mind that that's what Psalm 119 is about. But we're going to read in the very first psalm, or the first section, the first stanza. So it's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet that they account for here. And what I want you to think about as we think about what we've just done is that what this verse is talking about, this section of this, it's talking about integrity. It's talking about, oh my gosh, where am I going? I get there and then the wind blows my pages.
We have clothespins.
Karen.
Okay, here I go. Okay, Psalm 119. So I'm just going to read it through, and what I want you to do is just kind of listen to the person that got this author, because this is Old Testament. They say that it might have been, they don't know for sure, it was an anonymous person who wrote this poem. They think it might be David or it might be the prophet Ezra. They don't know for sure. But think about what this person, feel what this person's trying to communicate about how we can be men and women of God. Joyful are people of integrity who follow the instructions of the Lord. Joyful are those who obey his laws and search for him with all their hearts. They do not compromise with evil, and they walk only in his paths. You have charged us to keep your commandments carefully. Oh, that my actions could consistently reflect your decrees. Then I will not be ashamed when I compare my life with your commands. As I learn your righteous regulations, I will thank you by living as I should. I will obey your decrees. Please don't give up on me. How can a young person stay pure? By obeying your word. I have tried hard to find you. Don't let me wander from your commands. I have hidden your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you. I praise you, O Lord. Teach me your decrees. I have recited aloud all the regulations that you have given us. I have rejoiced in your laws as much as in riches. I will study your commandments, and reflect on your ways. I will delight in your decrees and not forget your word. So, in here, in just this great section, it's just such a neat passage because it really lays out a way that we can really pattern our lives to try to be not just, oh, I want to try to be a good person, but integrity that comes from a heart that's changed by God. And as it says here, it says, Marin, it says right here, joyful are people of integrity. What does integrity mean? Does anybody know? What does that mean?
Honesty.
Karen, it's interesting because the Lord just gave me an acronym. For integrity.
Sounds like Gary Busey.
In truth. In truth. I-N-T-E-R-I-T-Y. Okay, help me on the spelling again.
T-R-U-T-H.
Okay, in truth, exercise, G-R-I-T, grit, and the Y would be for Yahweh, warrior. We are warriors. We are created in God's image. So in truth, exercise God's righteousness in truth, G-R-I-T, as a warrior of God. Yahweh starts with a Y. Integrity. Exercising truth.
Absolutely. And that truth comes from following the instructions of the Lord. Joyful are those who obey his laws. So what it's saying here, could anybody have an idea of this first section? What's it telling us to do? What should we spend our time doing with God's word?
Exercising truth.
Yeah, but what do? It says, follow the instructions. It says, joyful are those who obey the laws, and they don't compromise with evil. In this world today, Casey's entering out, she will know. She's been going to an awesome experience of Christian school, and as she shared last night, she wants to enter into the world of the unified school district. And there are going to be people there, as she said, that don't believe in God. When we go out into the community, here we have the comfort of being able to speak boldly about Jesus because we all are on the same page. But the thing is that when we leave this comfortable zone and we go out into the world, what's that going to look like? Now, what I want to do is do a really quick fun thing that maybe some of you have heard and maybe some of you haven't. I want you to go to when they were in the beginning in Acts, and there's a cool little story that will make this easier to understand. So go into Acts in the beginning of the church, like Acts chapter 5. There's a little story that we're going to read. It'll make this easier to understand because everybody, I think, is not wanting to really think about it too much right now. It's hot. Okay, no, actually, it's not 5. Chapter 8. All right. So you're thinking, okay, how do I go about living for God and have integrity? Integrity means it's not just about how you act on the outside. It's a part of you. It's about who you are. So that even when people aren't looking, that's who you are still. Integrity means you're consistent throughout your life and that you're a warrior of truth. And you exercise joy in your pursuit of God. Well, here's a little story. Because does anybody know about Stephen, the guy Stephen, when the early church? In the early church, the disciples started going around and they started telling about Jesus, right? This is the very beginning. Jesus has just died on the cross. He went to heaven now, and now we have the disciples, and they begin preaching in Jerusalem. And the church starts to grow. Church gets so big that pretty soon people start going, hey, there's this other detail of food over here, and none of that. And the disciples are going, we can't do that, so we're going to pick 7 awesome men that we think can organize things for us while we're out preaching and teaching. Stephen was one of those people, and Philip. Stephen and Philip were 2 of those guys on this, group. So, Stephen ended up being the first one who was stoned to death because he went out and preached the good news, and there began to be persecution against the Christians. So, Stephen actually lost his life because they didn't like what he was sharing. So all of a sudden, there became this time of Christians couldn't just go out and be Christians without people wanting to kill them. So the people got scared. Once Stephen was stoned to death, the people kind of got scared, and they were like, we have to leave Jerusalem. We're going to go out into the world, which is actually kind of a cool thing, because up until that time, Jerusalem was where the Christians were all hanging out. And Jerusalem and preaching in the temples and all that kind of stuff, trying to share Christ's word. But what happened is when Stephen was killed, everybody went, whoa, and they took off to places like Samaria, Judea, places where the Jewish people didn't go. Do you know the story of the Samaritan woman? The Samaritan, the Good Samaritan? That's the guy nobody expected to help, because he's one of those lame Samaritan people. They went to Samaria and Judea and places, and they began to take Christianity outside the normal box of Jerusalem. This is the story of Philip, in honor of Philip, because he can't be here.
With one L.
One L. Philip with the one L. So this is a little story of Philip with the one L, who was one of those guys who said, I think it's time for me to leave Jerusalem. I'm going to go out into the big wide world of scariness and have to share God with the creepy people that I'm a little worried about. Yeah. So, Philip, fortunately, though, didn't have that attitude. Okay, so Stephen has just been killed, and the funny thing is, Saul, who actually goes on to be Paul, was standing right there when Stephen was killed. And it says Saul was one of the witnesses, and he agreed completely with the killing of Stephen. A great wave of persecution began that day, sweeping over the church in Jerusalem. And all the believers, except the apostles, were scattered into the regions of Judea and Samaria. Some devout men came and buried Stephen with great mourning, but Saul was going everywhere to destroy the church. He went from house to house, dragging out both men and women and throwing them into prison. But the believers who were then scattered preached the good news about Jesus wherever they went. Philip, for example, went to the city of Samaria and told the people there about the Messiah. The crowds listened intently to Philip because they were eager to hear this message and see the miraculous signs he did. Many evil spirits were cast out screaming as they left their victims, and many who had been paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was a great joy in the city. Now a man named Simon had been a sorcerer there for many years, amazing the people of Samaria, claiming to be someone great. Everyone, from the least to the greatest, often spoke of him as the Great One, the power of God. They listened closely to him because for a long time he had astounded them with his magic. Now to help you